In this video, I want to speak to you about the remarkable life and works of Maurice Nicoll. Early in his life, he was a psychiatrist and worked closely with Carl Jung. Later on, he met Ouspensky, who introduced him to Gurdjieff. And after that, like many prominent figures of history, after they encounter Gurdjieff and Ouspensky and their ideas, they often leave behind whatever life was to pursue the inner life. And so in this video, I have some biographical books on Maurice Nicoll. Of course, his renowned and preeminent psychological commentaries on the works of, on the ideas of Gurdjieff and Ouspensky, and some of his other publications. And so we'll dip into his life, his works, and all things Maurice Nicoll. So all that's coming up in this video. So let's go. So let's begin with some biographical information about Maurice Nicoll. There is a wonderful piece by Theodore Nottingham that I'll link in the description. You can go and watch that. It's very short, but gives a lovely overview of Maurice Nicoll, his life. If you want to go much deeper, you can pick up this wonderful biography, Maurice Nicoll, A Portrait by Beryl Pogson. And Beryl Pogson was his secretary, I believe, or his assistant. And this is really heartfelt, a really deep dive into his life. And it's a wonderful biography. I read it many times when I first encountered Maurice Nicoll, and I'd highly recommend it. And there is also a more modern publication by Gary Lachman, Maurice Nicoll, Forgotten Teacher of the Fourth Way. And I've recently received this and not read it, but I do intend to. And like I say, by reading both of those books, you will certainly have the fullest picture of Maurice Nicoll's life, but I'm just going to share some of the high points of that life. Maurice Nicoll was a Scottish neurologist, psychiatrist, author, and prominent teacher of the Fourth Way, a spiritual system developed by Gurdjieff and Ouspensky. He is best known for his 5-volume work, Psychological Commentaries on the Teaching of Gurdjieff and Ouspensky, which compiles many talks he gave to study groups in and around London between 1941 and 1953. Born in Kelso, Scotland, Nicoll was the son of William Robertson Nicoll, a Free Church minister and literary figure. He studied science at Gonville and Caius College, Cambridge, earning first-class honours in the natural sciences. He then trained in medicine at St Bartholomew's Hospital in London, qualifying as a surgeon and a neurologist. In 1921, Nicoll met P.D. Ouspensky and shortly thereafter G.I. Gurdjieff. He sold his medical practice and, with his family, joined Gurdjieff's Institute for the Harmonious Development of Man near Paris. After the institute closed in 1923, Nicoll returned to England and continued his studies with Ouspensky. In 1931, encouraged by Ouspensky, he began leading his own study groups focusing on the integration of Gurdjieff's and Ouspensky's teaching. In his later years, Nicoll established a community at Great Amwell in Hertfordshire, where he continued his teaching until his death in 1953. His work remains influential among students of the Fourth Way and Esoteric Christianity. So that was a very brief look at Maurice Nicoll's life. As I said, Beryl Pogson's A Portrait is where to start, I would say, fantastic. And then Gary Lachman, who has written many books on characters from the Fourth Way. But now we're going to move into his ideas and particularly his commentaries on Gurdjieff and Ouspensky. We've already read at the channel, so you can go and check that out. A simple explanation of work ideas. So that's already on the channel. Go check that out. I almost see that as a preface, an introduction to Ouspensky's In Search of the Miraculous. I also have this self-published and rather rare book, I think. I don't think there was many copies. Informal Work Talks and Teachings. And this was put together, compiled by Lewis Creed. And as I say, I don't imagine there was very many published. And so this is very interesting and also gives a very nice insight into Maurice Nicoll's ideas. But as I've mentioned, what he's most famous for is this absolutely fantastic 5-volume commentary. And here I have, I didn't bring them all down because they're too heavy, but I just brought volume 1, the Psychological Commentaries on the Teachings of Gurdjieff and Ouspensky. And when I first began and encountered the work, I picked these up, and this impacted me, this title, The Teaching of Gurdjieff and Ouspensky. Similar to myself early on, Maurice Nicoll is saying that it's the teachings of Gurdjieff and Ouspensky. Later on, of course, I came to understand more deeply that it's Gurdjieff teaching interpreted by Ouspensky and also Maurice Nicoll, but these are invaluable. And also, just recently, I encountered and discovered all of them in PDF form. And so what I think, because they're so powerful, so important to our understanding of the work, of the ideas of the fourth way, I think I'm going to begin working through them. This is a massive undertaking, a very large octave to work through the 5 volumes. But here at Book Club, we love a challenge. And so if that's interesting for you, do let me know. And I will begin producing them in a sense as we have read through the fourth way and also In Search of the Miraculous, but I'll also add some imagery and trying to make it as engaging as possible. So if that's interesting for you, do let me know, and I intend to start that very soon. And as I mentioned, a simple explanation of the work ideas is already available. These next two I'll share together because they're a similar genre, similar set of ideas. Maurice Nicoll was very influenced by the Bible, by Christianity, and his father being in the church. And these next two, we have here Maurice Nicoll, The Mark, and also The New Man. And so The New Man here, we have, this is a lovely, but all of these are hardback, but it's subtitled An Interpretation of Some Parables and Miracles of Christ. And so, in essence, it's an alternative and esoteric look into the Bible. Some of the chapters are the language of parables, the idea of temptation in the Gospels, the marriage at Cana, the idea of good being above truth, the idea of righteousness in the Gospels, the idea of wisdom in the Gospels, Simon and Peter in the Gospels, the idea of prayer, Sermon on the Mount, faith, the kingdom of heaven, and ends with Judas Iscariot. And so if you're interested in alternative approaches to the Bible and the Gospels, you might also enjoy Paramhansa Yogananda's The Second Coming of Christ. Of course, it's a very different interpretation, but as I always say here at Book Club, by reading the Gospels in their essential form in the King James Version, and maybe the New International Version or the New English Version or whatever version of the Bible you like, then you can read Maurice Nicoll's take, Paramhansa Yogananda's take. I'm sure there's many other takes, but by reading all of these different interpretations and commentaries, you have, for me, the fullest approach to the biblical Gospels and the teachings of Jesus Christ. And then you can go into the rest of the New Testament, Acts and Paul's letters. The book of Revelation, the book of John is a very esoteric book, the Gospel of John. But by approaching it from all sides, you can have the best understanding. And I'll just read some of the chapters from the Mark, Physical and Spiritual Man, Transformation, the Parable of the Sower, Note on the Parable of the Grain of Mustard Seed, Metanoia, Nicodemus, Truth, A New Heaven and a New Earth, a New Will, and the Telos. And that is all very interesting and deep and impactful. And this final book is a rare, not many people speak about this when I've done my research on other videos on Maurice Nicoll, and it's called Living Time and the Integration of the Life. And this is in essence very similar. I don't know if it was inspired by Ouspensky's Tertium Organum. In a sense, these fourth dimensions, how we perceive time, how time changes depending on what we're doing. And just very briefly, some of the chapters here. The invisibility of oneself, quality of consciousness, different levels of reality in man and the universe, passing time and time itself, the life in living time, an aeon, eternity and the recurrence of life. Ouspensky, in his book New Model of the Universe, has a chapter, Eternal Recurrence, which Nietzsche would speak about much. Recurrence in the same time, two psychological systems in man, the creation of now, relationship, and the integration of the life. And so this is also a very wonderful approach to all of these ideas. And so there you have it. Maurice Nicoll's life and works. As I mentioned, go and grab Beryl Pogson's biography to get the most deepest insight into his life, a woman who spent many years alongside him, working together, and saw all of his trials and tribulations and how his life changed and morphed over time. As I said, we're going to begin very soon, so keep your eyes out and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss our work through the psychological commentaries. And if anything else in this video has been interesting for you, don't hesitate to comment and let me know what you want to hear more about. But I really think it will be valuable, especially if you enjoy the intellectual approach to the work and the fourth way through our readings of Ouspensky, In Search of the Miraculous, Maurice Nicoll's own A Simple Explanation of Work Ideas, and now the fourth way. It really does give food for thought. There's small letters to a friend of his, and you'll see as they develop, in a sense, people want to know more. And so Maurice Nicoll says, well, let me write some letters and have a correspondence, so that will come very soon. All that's coming up here at the channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe, share the video if you have some like-minded friends. Reach out if you need anything else. But for now, take care, and I'll see you soon.